Both Cinna and Kozupi were dead. They died before my very eyes, and Rimi had been the one to kill them. Right now, she was lying down on the sofa, sleeping. After Kozupi died, she'd started trembling, let out a scream, and then lost consciousness. I hadn't even been able to stand up for a while from the shock. I'd been scared shitless. My fear had kept building and building, and eventually, I couldn't stand to look at Kozupi's bloody corpse any longer. So I got up, carried Rimi to my room, and shut us in. She would occasionally let out a pained moan, but no matter how many times I called her name, she wouldn't regain consciousness. So I just sat down, hugged my knees, and waited for Rimi to wake up. There wasn't much I could do about my trembling. Senna and Cosby had just died, after all. Unlike the Nugent victims, they were far from being complete strangers. I knew them, talked to them, spent time with them. Just yesterday, the three of us had eaten garu garu kuns together. Senna, Kozupi, and I. When I saw that photo with the three of us in it, I bit my lip. It didn't matter how much I wanted to forget it. That scene ripped straight from a nightmare played again and again in the back of my mind. Kozupi's vivid, crimson blood, the slimy, sickly texture of the glistening bones sticking out from her body, her emotionless eyes that had lost all light, and the indescribable fear and sickness I'd felt in the moment where I saw another person cease to be a person. The moment when her slender body had been ripped apart and burned into my retinas. In that moment, I learned how frail people truly were. I felt like I was about to throw up, and if I did end up doing so, that would make it the fourth time I'd puke. What had ended up happening to Senna? This was an 8-story building. Having fallen all the way from the roof, there was no way she'd made it out unscathed. She'd probably, no, definitely died. The two of them were both dead. I couldn't believe it. It couldn't be real. It had to have been a dream. A nightmare. Yeah, that was the only explanation. Dying in such a horrific way. And if that wasn't already enough, it was Rimi who had killed them. I didn't want to believe it. There was no way I could, but it was the truth. I didn't understand why Senna and Kosupi had suddenly turned hostile and tried to attack me. She had said something about IR too. It had probably had something to do with my essay from back when I was a kid, but I couldn't care less about that now. After that, Rimi had been revealed to be a gigalomaniac, something that honestly hadn't surprised me too much. But then, she fought to protect me. She might have gone too far for sure, but there was no way I was going to hold a grudge over that. Still, if things stayed like this, both Rimi and I would get caught by the police. Senna and Kozupi's corpses were just lying out there. Someone would eventually find them and notify the police. I couldn't get caught, as if I'd never let that happen. I could just tell the truth. I hadn't killed anyone after all, Rimi had. And besides, Senna and Kozupi attacked me first, so they had to count legally as self-defense. But I was well aware that none of that would work. Back when the crucifixion had happened, I'd almost been named the culprit. There was no doubt in my mind that it would go the exact same way this time. Moreover, I needed Rimi. If she didn't exist, if she wasn't here to protect me from the threat of Shogun, I would be completely fucked. So when I learned the truth that she was a gigalomaniac, I hadn't been horrified. If anything, I'd welcomed it. She wasn't powerless. She wasn't just a naive high schooler. She was my ally, one who even wielded the power to protect me from Shogun. That was why I wanted her to wake up so badly, and sooner rather than later. I'd get her to erase Sinna's corpse with her delusion powers, and once she did that, the police would no longer be able to get us. Nobody had found their bodies yet, right? Holding back my urge to throw up, I looked up at the door. Kosupi's bloody corpse was just outside, and therefore unlikely to be found. But Senna's wasn't. Senna had fallen off the roof, meaning someone could easily stumble upon what was left of her. It'd be the end if that happened. Seeing how Rimi wasn't waking up, I'd have to cover their bodies somehow. Just the mere prospect terrified me. I didn't even want to look at someone's corpse. And there wasn't even mentioning the fact that I knew them, which made it so much worse. Even so, I desperately shook away my fears, and then I went outside. I had to ensure my and Rimi's safety. It was already dark out, leaving my surroundings very dim. I didn't even have the moon to help. The clouds were hiding it. Straining my eyes, I looked over to where Kozupi was lying. Huh? But I couldn't find it. I couldn't find Kozupi's tragic corpse. There was still a pool of blood, so I couldn't laugh it off as it was all a dream. But her corpse was completely gone. What the? Starting to get really confused, I stuck my head over the edge of the roof and peered down at the street below. There was no one there, and Senna's corpse wasn't there either. There was clearly something down there. Something I immediately understood to be a pool of blood. But that was it. No people, no corpse, nobody freaking out, nothing. Where had her corpse gone? The corpse had definitely been there after Rimi had lost consciousness, so Rimi couldn't have erased her with her gigolomaniac powers, but then who could have? Ayase? No, she was still hospitalized in Yoyogi. Then Shogun? But he was my enemy. There was no way he'd ever do something that would have benefited me. What the hell was going on? Feeling both vaguely anxious and incredibly relieved about the corpses disappearing, I let out a deep sigh. Then, I felt chills on the nape of my neck. I was being watched. It was the usual mysterious gaze. Shogun, is that you watching me? I ducked into my room. Rimi had gotten up. She was looking around the room with a vacant expression on her face. Guess she'd finally woken up. But what should I say to her? Killing Senna and Kozupi had been pretty extreme of a shock. Then again, that was bound to happen if you killed someone. It wasn't like player killing in a game. She'd also said she didn't mean to, and I was sure that only made it worse. Did she kill herself? I didn't know what to say at a time like this, so in the end, I couldn't help but say nothing. Rimi looked at me, then tilted her head curiously. Huh? She did kill herself. Rimi was acting strange. Rimi? What's wrong? Rimi? Who's Rimi? Is it me? But I'm not Rimi. What are you saying? Snap out of it. My name's... I don't know. You're kidding. You're kidding, right? I pressed her for an answer. Nope, I'm not. Right when she said that, Rimi jumped into my arms and started clinging to me. She'd rubbed her cheeks against mine like some spoiled kid wanting attention. Having her so close to me, and so suddenly at that, I started panicking, but... So, who are you? Are you my friend? You've gotta be! Friends are... Well, friends are people who are nice to me. You're not mad, are you? It makes me sad when people are mad. Also, pain makes me really sad too. I don't like it. Amnesia, or maybe even some form of age regression. I thought this kind of thing only happened on TikTok. I would have never even dreamed of actually running into it with... I'm sorry. In a roge? Not in games in general. No, in a roge, just specifically. But that was only a possibility. The sheer amount Rimi had freaked out when she killed Kozupi wasn't normal. And, well, can you really say that? All those who have become Gigalomaniacs broke at some point in their lives. I remembered the late Senna's words. Rimi might have broken once again. She killed her own heart and mind. Suddenly, those words came to mind. I couldn't quite remember where, but I had a feeling that someone had told me that before. If Rimi had killed her own mind from the shock of having killed Kozue and Senna, and I was talking to an entirely new personality she had created, I could understand why she was acting like a child. DID, dissociative identity disorder, also known as the shitty representation of multiple personalities. You had accused me of having it. Obviously, I didn't have it, but maybe Rima was suffering from it now. That was all just speculation, of course. What I did know, though, was that the childlike Rimi in front of me now was nothing like the Rimi I knew. She wasn't the same girl who told me she'd stay by my side, the girl whose kindness had enveloped me. She was completely different now. No. I fell to my knees on the spot. I was overwhelmed with despair. As Rimi clung to me playfully, she peered at my face curiously. Her eyes were so serene, so beautiful. Purity overflowed from them. Purity that I couldn't stare back into. In a way, we were lucky that Senna and Kozui's corpses had disappeared. But if Rimi was like this, who was supposed to protect me now? Fuck you, nigga. Rimi. Not that I knew whether or not to even call her that. Had genuinely lost all her memories. Or I suppose you could say that this Rimi didn't have memories at all. Genuinely. Is that my name? Rimi? Yeah, it is. Sakihata Rimi. Sakihata Rimi. Oh, so that's what it is. From the way she talked, you wouldn't think we were talking about her literal name. And you are... What's your name? I'm Nishijo Takumi. Having to teach her something so basic, like day one stuff, was just... Thinking about where this was going to lead left me feeling worse than before. Nishijo Takumi. Hi, Taku. I'm honestly surprised he's not happier to teach a girl how to use the bathroom. It was the same. Her nickname for me was the same. Hey, Taku, my hands, they're all sticky. The dried blood on her hands clung to her skin. The dark red discoloration on her was Kozupi's blood, or at least it should have been. Her corpse had vanished, but her blood still remained. I don't like being all sticky. Rimi looked pretty sad as she stared at her hands. I was reminded of Kozupi's smile, and was hit with a horrible ache in my chest. Trying my best to hold myself together, I got a wet towel ready for her. Here, show me your hands. When I told her that, Rimi timidly held out both of her hands. Using the towel, I started cleaning the blood off them. Every time I glanced at it, the previously white towel got redder and redder. To make sure I got all of it off, I had to scrub kind of hard. As I wiped away the blood, making sure to get even between her fingers. It tickles. Rimi laughed cheerfully. She must have had no idea why she had blood on her hands. Well, she wasn't a fucking acting carefree. You know what? Clean them yourself. Why should I have to babysit you? But there was no way I could actually say that. Rimi had tried her best to protect me, and because of that, regardless of whether or not it had been intentional, she'd killed someone. And then her heart and mind had broken completely. So I couldn't just leave her to fend for herself. After all, I was also responsible for her being like this. There, they're all clean now. Oh, thank you! Wow, my hands are all sparkly now. I gotta get this down. I feel all squeaky clean. She took my hands, intertwined her fingers within mine, and then innocently shook them up and down. She seemed so happy. It was like she was a little kid, she is. For some reason, her smile left me feeling wistful. Nigga, what? Hey, Rimi, will you protect me? Protect? Mind protecting? Me. I don't really know what that means. But since you're my friend, you'll be nice to me anyway, right? So, I'm glad you're here being with me, Taku. It was no use. There was no point talking to her anymore. The Rimi who was supposed to protect me wasn't there anymore. I hung my head. Rimi wasn't supposed to be here. Where was her house? She needed to get home. I thought of reaching out to her family, but I couldn't find anything among her stuff with their contact information. If I went to school, the teachers there would most likely know her address. Problem was, it was already fairly late, so I wouldn't be able to get in to ask. Actually, now that I thought about it, I didn't really know much about Rimi. Where did she live? How big was her family? When was her birthday? What was her favorite food? I didn't know anything about her. Because of that, there was nothing I could do for her. Taku! Taku! Rimi called my name as she pulled the hem of my shirt. Hey, Taku! I'm hungry. What time was it? It was already outside. And also dinner time. I was gonna ignore that. Unfortunately, I didn't have any spare food here. I would have to go buy something. What do you want to eat? Had she also forgotten about food due to her memory loss? Did she not know what different kinds of foods were? What they tasted like? Ooh, I know. I want to eat some soba. Soba? I like soba a lot. You do? Yep. Why? Have you eaten it before? Have I eaten it before? Don't think so. But I like soba a whole lot. What was going on? Was she starting to regain her memories, or was her previous self since the taste the only thing she remembered? If she got her memories back, I'd be safe. For the time being, though, I had to go to the supermarket to buy some soba. Rimi, wait here. Don't leave this room no matter what, you hear? Okay. I attentively struck the pose the previous Rimi had done all the time. Put one hand up against my head as if I was saluting her. Maybe this would make Rimi remember. That was my train of thought at least. But nigga, you just wanted to be cute. What's that? That's so cool. She had no idea what I was doing. Her eyes were sparkling with curiosity, not recognition. So, incredibly embarrassed, I bolted out of the room. On the way to the supermarket, I checked to see if the police were around or not. Just as I thought, Senna and Kozupi's corpses had truly disappeared. If there were any police around, then it was possible that there had been witnesses. But if there weren't, then that would mean no one had found them. In other words, we might have had some time before we were found out. Of course, I wasn't just wary of the police, but Shogun too. He could show up completely out of nowhere at any time, so I paid extremely close attention to any shadows where he could have been lurking in. Thankfully, I didn't feel the gaze at the moment, but even then, I still didn't want to go out at night. The darkness scared me. And when I walked through the deepest parts of that darkness, I could faintly see the scene of dead Kozupi and Senna start to form. Their bodies, mutilated and disfigured, slowly took shape. I quickly averted my eyes and hurried to the supermarket, keeping my eyes trained on my feet. Once I got back to my base, I got the portable stove and started boiling the water for the soba. My container didn't exactly have a form of ventilation, and there was flammable shit everywhere, so it was honestly pretty dangerous. Regardless, I went ahead and tossed the soba into the pot. Instant noodles, of course. Rimi was staring at the noodles with a spark of curiosity in her eyes. So, that's how you make soba. Kosupi's pool of blood was still there. It was practically all dried up now, and since it was nighttime, it looked like some weird black stain. I broke down all the empty cardboard boxes I piled up and set them over the top of it. I knew it wouldn't solve the problem, but I still didn't want to see it if I could help it. Taku, it's about to spill! When I heard her say that, I went back to check the stove. It was boiling pretty intensely, and it was on the brink of overflowing. But instead of doing about it, she just kept saying, "Whoa. Turn off the burner!" Huh? Mmm. Rimi tilted her head, then turned the dial on the stove the wrong way. Whoa, it's spilling everywhere! Wow! What? This is amazing my ass! I frantically pushed Rimi aside and turned off the burner. There was hot water everywhere. Yeah, it shouldn't have really mattered. As long as it was edible, she shouldn't have cared too much about how it tasted or its texture. So I took the pot, drained the water from it, and immediately rinsed the soba noodles. Though it was worth noting I'd only done so because instructions told me to, not because I was a master soba chef. Do you like it hot or cold? Cold! I plopped the noodles into a bowl, then poured in the base I'd bought as well. All I add for toppings was some green onion. I chopped up to make a decent garnish, and then it was ready to go. I took Rimi back to my room in a hurry. I'd leave the cleaning for tomorrow when it was bright outside, but right now I wanted to spend as little time as possible outside, especially since there was still the faint smell of blood out there. I am a fucking gigalomaniac. It felt as if Senna and Kozue could show up even now. They'd be drenched in blood, and then they'd start walking toward me like zombies. Sure, that was more based in occult than reality, but it still scared me nonetheless. Hey, Taku, can I eat now? Can I? It was pretty clear that Rimi didn't have any of the intense worries I had. Actually, maybe it was precisely because of those things that she changed into an entirely new personality, in order to completely erase the memory of having killed people. Go ahead. Yay! Thanks, Taku! She then grabbed the chopsticks I'd given to her. She was holding them like they were a fork, though, and instead of using them, she stuck her mouth on the edge of the bowl and started slurping it up directly. Yeah, I don't care what anyone says. That's how... She must have even forgotten how to hold chopsticks correctly. She'd also forgotten how soba was made and how to turn off a simple stove. And yet, she had remembered that it was polite to say thank you for making stuff for you. Maybe that meant her understanding of the world around her had regressed. I can't do it. Huh? I can't eat it. Mimi was getting frustrated at her own inability to properly eat the soba. I mean, considering how she was trying to go about it, of course she wouldn't be able to. What did you just say? Was she for real? She was asking me to feed her? I felt like I was her babysitter at this point, or perhaps a dad, but having a daughter the same age as me, I didn't know if I could handle that. What do you mean? What do you mean by that? She pleaded with her puppy dog eyes, and since I couldn't really say no to those, I let out a sigh and gave in. Here, say on. Rimi took the soba I was holding out to her in her mouth, then started chewing it with a smile on her face. She seemed to really like it. I'm glad to hear it. Suddenly, a thought crossed my mind. A laid-back, relaxing life with a real girl. That was definitely what I was looking for. A life with no overly dramatic eroge-esque plot points. Not having to worry about the heroine's emotional baggage, not having to worry about feelings for each other yet and being too afraid to speak up, and not having to worry about getting dragged into a murder case. A life that you wouldn't find in books or video games, and yet I had a feeling that's what I really wanted. And that very life was actually unfolding before my very eyes. Not only that, but Rimi was here with me too. Being honest with myself, Rimi was cute. She'd also said she would protect me, and I too wanted to stay with her forever if I could. But this was all fake, a lie. This life wouldn't last. And Rimi wasn't Rimi. Our time would be far too short lived, far too fleeting. The thought of it made me feel sad, wistful, and empty. Come back, Rimi. Come back, please. I couldn't help but whisper those words. I was taken by surprise. I had heard Sedatan's voice come from my PC. I just received an email from someone. Was it from Shogun? I had a bad feeling about this. This couldn't be good. I didn't want to look. Don't look at me. I felt the gaze. Someone was looking at me. It felt more even evident than usual. I looked around me, but there was no one besides me and Rimi in this room. My hand had stopped, and because of that, Rimi was fighting hard to try and wrest the soba into her mouth. She wasn't looking at me, which meant that there was no one else it could have possibly been. I didn't even need to ask, whose eyes are those eyes? Groaning, I headed for the PC and checked my inbox. I'd only received one email, and the sender was Shogun. What was he plotting now? Was he gonna kidnap Nanami for real this time instead of just faking it? Was he maybe gonna finally come and kill me directly once and for all? The fear made all my hair stand on end. The chills at the nape of my neck grew even stronger. I didn't feel any good, and my head was starting to hurt somewhat. Don't look at me. With trembling fingers, I clicked the mouse and opened the email. Huh? There was nothing written in it. It was only the subject line, which read Awaken. There was nothing written in the body. Awaken? What did he mean by that? Was he telling me to awaken as a gigglomaniac? You had to be fucking kidding me. I had a feeling he'd said something similar. Stop fucking with me! Is scaring me that much goddamn fun for you? I was angry, but at the same time I wanted to fend off the fear lurking deep inside me. I hit the keyboard hard with my hands. I was gonna control A by accident or something. Static came from the speakers. Had I clicked something by accident? I heard something. Mix it with all that static, I'd heard something. I hurriedly checked my PC. The MP3 player wasn't running, and there weren't any videos playing in my browser. I thought maybe Shogun's email had included some kind of virus, but there was no files attached to it. Again, I heard it again. It was getting harder to breathe. Drops of sweat ran down my forehead. Oh, if I could just turn off the sound. If I did that, I'd stop hearing this extremely weird static. I opened the sound settings on the bottom right corner with the mouse. Then I checked the option to mute to everything in the volume mixer. Once I did that, I wouldn't hear anything. I would have to listen at static, nor anything resembling a voice within the static. I was extremely tired, freaked out. But of course I was. It had only been 2 hours since two people I knew had died right in front of me. Not to mention the weird stuff I'd seen at the hospital when I'd gone to visit Ayase, or the strange calls from Nanami. So I had to just be mishearing something amid the static, right? The voice was coming from the speaker. Uh, uh, I'd clearly heard it. It was him. That'd been Shogun's voice. The same voice that talked to me in Scramble Crossing. Why? I'm I muted Dylan, didn't I? I know I did. Taku, what's a turd melt? Quit Simon over that. Rimi, acting as if she had been just for the past couple of hours, tilted her head as she looked at me with innocent eyes. I gave up. Fuck. I hate. Rimi, please, pull yourself together. Oh, that hurts. Say it. Say you'll protect me. I I can't take this alone. At this rate, he's gonna kill me. Don't hurt me. I don't blame you for what happened. But if you're not here for me, I'm done for. So please. I don't like pain. Tears trickled down her face. I was scaring her. Every couple of seconds, her shoulders trembled. Slowly let go of her. Please, wake up. Huh? The floor started shaking violently. An earthquake. It was bigger than the last one. I was struck with a violent ringing in my ears. It was since touch. Fuck. It felt like my ears were being pierced by thousands upon thousands of needles. It was though my brain was being stirred into mush by a blender. And then, I was hit by an enormous impact, and a blinding light dyed my vision completely white. I was awash with an elusive feeling of being immersed in lukewarm water. The waves gently rocked me back and forth as I drifted along its surface. As I slowly opened my eyes, a vibrant blue sky spread out before me. Feels almost like I could fall into it. It was a rather strange sky. The sun was nowhere to be seen. Even though I was supposed to be in my room, even though it was supposed to be nighttime, when could I have possibly gone outside? When could I have possibly turned today? With the last earthquake, I'd been out for more than an hour. Maybe this time I'd been unconscious for the entire night, I thought to myself. I remembered the earthquake's tremendous impact. Yet another elusive feeling hit me, like the tremors were resonating with the very blood coursing through my veins, threatening to burst open from the inside. Maybe, maybe this was heaven? Maybe I died in that earthquake. Heaven, huh? There was no way an otaku freak like me would go to heaven outside of Persona 4. That wasn't even mentioning how that game hadn't been released yet, or how I hadn't been able to save my own little sister, how I'd been the worst possible brother to her, how I'd made Rimi kill Senna and Kozue. Hell would be a far more fitting place for someone like me, although obviously I'd choose heaven if I could. My body didn't feel quite right. I was being overwhelmed by a sense of walking on top of a fluffy cloud. I couldn't quite understand it, but regardless of how I felt, I forced myself to get up. The feeling of being rocked by the waves hadn't simply been my imagination after all. This was a world with a never-ending surface of my crystal clear water. A world where no matter how I looked, blue filled my view. And I had been right in the middle of it, lying down. Where was I? Was this really heaven? But I felt like I'd seen this scenery before. A voice resounded within my mind, a voice which rose from the depths of my memories. Right, I remembered now. I'd seen it in a dream before. Rimi had been there. I had talked to her as she looked up at the blue sky, her face clearly one of holding back tears. Was I seeing the same dream I had back then? But no matter where I looked, there was no one other than me. There was no one here, not even Rimi. It was far too reposeful. Rimi? I tried calling her name. My words were entirely mute, and yet, even without sound, they created ripples across the calm surface of the water. Are you there? Sound was a series of vibrations, and those vibrations in turn created waves. Among those waves, just like I had been a few moments ago, there was someone lying down. I stood up. My field of view expanded. The one drifting along the waves was Rimi. She was so unbelievably pale. She appeared as if she was dead. Her eyes were closed and both of her hands were resting gently on her chest. And she simply stayed that way, facing up to the sky, not moving even a single inch. Rimi, wake up. Even though I called out to her, she didn't react. She was dead. I knew that for certain. But it wasn't just her. The world itself was dead. And so I just stood there, not knowing what to do. Right at that very moment, Rimi's prone body gradually sank beneath the surface of the water. As soon as I realized what was happening, she was already submerged. How was I standing on top of water at all, I wondered. Curious, I fixed my gaze below the water's surface. Beyond it, there was only darkness. The sky was so bright, and yet, even though the water was so clear, below it, there was only an eternal darkness that seemed to swallow all. And Rimi, still lying on her back, was sinking farther and farther into its depths. I had to go after her. I needed to wake her up. But as soon as that thought crossed my mind, even though I'd been able to stand on water until then, all support suddenly disappeared from under me. I sank. My body grew heavier with each passing second. It was like I was underwater, but it wasn't as though I couldn't breathe. The water was very warm, too. I just wanted to drift within this comfortable sensation for all eternity. That was the way it made me feel. If I had to give an example, rather than ocean water, it was more like amniotic fluid. This very well might have been how a fetus felt within its mother's womb. I thought the darkness continued forever, but in truth, there was a bottom to it. It was so dark I couldn't even see my feet. I simply felt an odd, sticky sensation on my soles. I stood in the middle of the darkness. When I looked up, I found I could no longer see the surface. That blue sky, too, had been veiled completely by the darkness. The sole source of light was a single ray that descended down from above like a twin thread. Much like a spotlight would, it pointed to a single place. And yet, unlike a spotlight, there was nothing beneath it to be illuminated. It lit up only a meaningless spot. Nervously, I stepped into the light. It was ever so faint and gentle, but the moment I bathed in it, my chest began to ache. What was this sensation? It felt almost as if I could cry at a moment's notice, as if my heart itself was being rended. That was the sensation that overtook me. Where could Remy be right now after sinking all the way down here, relying on the faint light source alone? I made my way out from beneath the spot of light and searched the darkness. Soon, my toes hit something soft and yielding. I kneeled down and this time tried touching it with my hand. What I felt was so cold, it was capable of freezing my very fingertips. Little by little, my eyes adjusted to the darkness, and before long, I realized something. I was touching a person lying collapsed on the ground. Remy. Wake up. I tried shaking her. Remy, wake up. But there was no reaction. She wasn't breathing. Taking her feeble hand, I measured her pulse. She was dead. She had no pulse whatsoever. Dismayed, I strained my eyes to examine the surrounding darkness, only to find that she wasn't the only one. Countless other Remies were collapsed on the ground, almost as if this place were a burial ground. And every single one of them was dead. There was a graveyard, the graveyard of her heart. That is how it was felt to me. Suddenly, countless bubbles sprang forth before my eyes, and within each and every one of them I could see different visions being displayed. An instinctive realization came to me, and I knew then that these Remies were her dead memories.
私の最初の記憶は、落ちてくる雨と、空を覆い隠した、どんよりとした雲。
How long ago had that been? It was around the time I was just an elementary schooler. Maybe 6 years ago? It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous. In it, I saw my dad, whose head had been blown away, and my mom, who had been crushed completely by steel next to me. Even though only a moment prior we'd been celebrating inside the car, happy as could be about our family trip, an enormous truck had closed in on us. Before I even knew what was happening, the car had been completely flattened. I had then been struck by an intense pain, and my consciousness began to grow blurry, feeling as if my very body was torn apart. The sharp squeal of brakes played an endless refrain for my ears.
次の記
My,
憶は、手術台の上から見た、眩しい光と、
I wondered how long ago
男
that
の人
was.
の声。
It was right after losing my parents. Maybe 5 years ago? It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous. I was told by your doctor that you had seen something akin to a sword. Can you hear me? I had a feeling someone had called my name, but I can no longer recall exactly what that name was. For now, it was a dead name. It seems as though your wounds have not yet healed. I imagine having your parents die before your very eyes must have been quite the shock. Well, I am more than satisfied with only being heard. I am Norisei Ginichi, the honorary director of this AH Tokyo General Hospital, as well as one of its sponsors. You are here because there exists the possibility of you being a gigalomaniac. And by all means, I wish for you to awaken to that power. Fortunately, you have no more existing relatives, so we should not experience any troublesome guests knocking at our door. With that said, beginning today, you shall be treated as deceased. From this moment forward, you will spend your days in this basement. You needn't fret. No one knows of this room but I. So I beseech you, put your utmost into awakening. I have high hopes for you. You are a guinea pig, and I will take the full liberty of enacting various experiments on you in order to determine what is necessary to awaken the powerful and awakened. I continued to stare fixedly at the lights hanging from the ceiling, for I hated the dark more than anything.
次の記憶も、手術台の上から見た、眩しい光と、男の人の声。
I wondered how long ago that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous. Ooh. How very perseverant you are, young lady. Your back is full of lacerations, with your blood pouring out in every direction. Unimaginable. And yet, you resist. Why? As I have told you many times, you will simply do away with the struggling and awaken. You will be at peace. I continued to stare fixedly at the lights hanging from the ceiling. For if I did so, my vision would be rendered paralyzed, and it would all soon be over without me having to see anything anymore.
次の記憶も、手術台の上から見た、眩しい光と、 男の人の声。
I wondered how long ago that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous. I want to kill myself. Is it painful? I'm merely cutting the surface of your skin. As much as it will bleed, it will not be enough to kill you. If we leave it untreated for 3 days, it will separate, and then the itching should begin in earnest. That is when the real experiment begins. But please, worry not. I am a doctor, one that is more than capable of handling a scalpel. Let's see. About 10 locations should suffice. I continued to stare fixedly at the lights hanging from the ceiling, for if I did so, my vision would be rendered paralyzed, and it would soon all be over without me having to see anything more.
次の記憶も手術台の上から見た眩しい光と男の人の声。
I wondered how long ago that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous. Is that so? Does it itch so? Well, I'm afraid that despite this affliction, you may not scratch it. Humans are quite the interesting creatures. They can handle pain to a surprising extent, but the same does not apply to any form of itching. To this end, rather than pain, utilizing itching may be far more effective for shattering one's psyche. I continued to stare fixedly at the lights hanging from the ceiling, for if I did so, my vision would be rendered paralyzed, and it would soon all be over without me having to see anything more. And then, I killed my own self.
次の記憶も手術台の上から見た眩しい光と男の人の声。
I wondered how long ago that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous. I suppose this constitutes a comminuted fracture of the upper left arm. Common. To think you still have yet to awaken. What could I possibly be missing? We shall leave today's experiment here. Please, rest well in my absence. I continued to stare fixedly at the lights hanging from the ceiling, for if I did so, my vision would be rendered paralyzed, and it would soon all be over without me having to see anything more. And then, I killed my own self.
次の記憶も手術台の上から見た眩しい光と男の人の声。
I wondered how long ago that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous. Waterboarding is a form of torture the CIA used up until very recently. It is the most simple and effective technique to cause great distress to your subjects. With just a small amount of water, it's possible to afflict you with the illusion that you're drowning.
わずかな水の量だけであなたに溺死した錯覚を味わわせることができるのですよ。
Despite it originating quite a long time ago, this classic method of torture is still used today in the 21st century. Don't you find that rather fascinating? I continue to stare fixedly at the lights hanging from the ceiling. For if I did so, my vision would be rendered paralyzed, and it would soon all be over without me having to see anything more. And then, I killed my own self.
次の記憶も手術台の上から見た眩しい光と男の人の声。
I wondered how long ago that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous. Despite this being my first time administering anesthesia, I would say it went quite well. How do you feel? Are you now in a state of paralysis from the neck down? Not being able to freely move one's body can lead to an accumulation of stress. I'm sure you can imagine why this might be. To begin, let's try having you remain in this state for about a year. I will be nourishing you every day via IV, so fear not. Well then, I wish you a wondrous year. I continue to stare fixedly at the lights hanging from the ceiling. For if I did so, my vision would be rendered paralyzed, and it would soon all be over without me having to see anything more. As I remained there, I felt like I saw something amid the white light, something that looked like a pair of wings. And then, I killed my own self.
次の記憶は手術台の上から見た眩しい光だけ。
I wondered how long ago that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous. No matter how many times I called out, no one came for me. Nothing moved, and I couldn't move anything, not even a twitch of a finger. I simply stared vacantly at the light hanging from the ceiling. There was nothing else I could do. As I remained there, I felt like I saw something amid the white light. Something that almost looked like feathers fluttering about. And then, I killed my own self.
"次の記憶も手術台の上から見た眩しい光だけ。
I wondered how long ago that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had locked all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous. No matter how many times I called out, no one came for me. Nothing moved, and I couldn't move anything, not even a twitch of a finger. I simply stared vacantly at the light hanging from the ceiling. There was nothing else I could do. As I remained there, I felt like I saw something amid the white light. Something that almost looked like feathers fluttering about. And then, I killed my own self.
次の記憶は手術台の上から見た眩しい光と男の人の声。
I wondered how long ago that was. Having been locked in the basement, I had lost all sense of time. It didn't matter when it happened, for my memories were not continuous.
実に醜い姿ですね。一年もの
You
間
spent one
そこに
entire
関わって
year's
いたことに
time
なり
lying
ます。
there. How do you feel?
己の
Covered in
国
your
の
own
身が見
feces, reduced to
骨
nothing but
と
skin and
皮となる
bones,
姿と
and
は
robbed of your very
尊厳
dignity.
を奪われた
How does
人
this
の
all
よ
make
う
you
だったの
feel?
かと見
That
てい
is
る
what
の
I
です。
ask.
ですが
Though I
安心して
must
くださ
say,
い。
please worry not.
殺しはしませ
I
ん。
will not kill you.
この時
It
間
has
か
been
ら
about
あなた
3 years since this
そろそろ
experiment
触りたくな
began.
りますか。
I've
私は
grown
もう
so immensely fond of you, I
君
can
の
hardly
ような
contain
役をしてて
myself.
たまらない。
You're an irreplaceable
かけがえのない
subject to
存
me.
在ですよ。君は。
Forcibly
身柄を
awakening a
約束を連れ
gigalomaniac
て
is
くる
extremely
覚醒させる
difficult
ことは
and takes quite a
とても
long
難し
time.
く時間がかかる。
Even
ですが
still, I need you to
君には
awaken
早く
quickly.
目覚めてもらいたいのです。
I
期
have
待してい
high
ます
hopes for you. I continue to stare fixedly at the lights hanging from the ceiling. For if I did so, my vision would be rendered paralyzed, and it would soon all be over without me having to see anything more. As I remained there, I felt like I saw something amid the white light that looked like feathers fluttering down together with a pair of wings. And then I killed myself. What number was my current self? That's enough. Make it stop, please. To think there was such a tragic past behind Rimi's smile. I took one of Rimi's corpses that was lying on the ground and brought it close to my chest. It was terribly cold, and I could tell it was devoid of a soul. But even so, I needed her. I want you here with me, Rimi. I then wished and crafted a delusion. Wake up. Please wake up, Rimi. You're the only one who can save me. I know this is selfish of me, but I need you to protect me. I know this is presumptuous of me, but even though I'm a total loser, I feel like I can change if I'm with you. So please, wake up, Rimi. The next thing I knew, I found myself in the blue-filled world once again. Waves ran across the surface of the water, and then slowly rising up from the depths were countless Rimis. Every one of them had their eyes closed and were standing still as could be on top of the water. Eventually, they started moving. However, they didn't do so using their legs, but simply glided across the water. One Rimi then overlapped with another, and that same one overlapped with another one. The Rimis are merging together. Dumbfounded, I just stood there and watched. Eventually, there were only 4 of them left, then 2. And then the last 2 Rimis slowly melded together and became one. Her eyes opened, and then she looked at me. Could this Rimi have been the one I knew? That Rimi? Or was it an entirely different one? I didn't know. I was afraid to call her name, so I waited for her to say something. But instead of speaking, she showed me a warm smile.
リシ
Raising her hand to her head, she struck her usual pose.
リミリミなんだね。
Rimi nodded, and then she embraced me. I buried my face in her chest. Gravity soon disappeared, and the two of us began drifting across the blue.
タクの声聞こえたよ。起きろ、リミ。
おかよかった。
Lying on the surface of the water, Rimi held me as she gently stroked my hair. I couldn't describe how wonderful that felt. It was as if the very essence of all her kindness and warmth was enveloping me. It reminded me of how I felt when my mom hugged me back when I was a kid. How safe I'd felt in her arms. I wanted to stay like this forever, but at the same time, I wanted to confirm myself that she really was Rimi. So I turned my head just enough to look at her face.
私のために泣いてくれるの。タクって泣き虫だな。
Even with that horrific past behind her, she still had the brightest smile.
私全部思い出したよ。これまで自分の心を自殺させることで消してきたたくさんのこと。でも思い出さない方がまだ楽だったかな。
リミ
Rimi, despite looking like she was about to cry, still made an effort to show a smile. She entwined her fingers with my hair.
キスしようか。
Before I knew it, my chin had been raised slightly. A captivating aroma filled me, and something warm and tender pressed up against my lips. Right before me was her face. Her eyes were closed. I could feel her soft breaths. So this was a kiss, so sweet and so pleasant. It felt like my brain itself was turning to mush. From just a kiss alone, my heart was filled with love for her. An otaku freak like me depended on her so, yet even still desired her everything. I closed my eyes and engraved that sensation in my memories. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in my room. Rimi was lying down on the floor, with me still in her embrace. Slowly, she parted from my lips.
ただいま。
うん。
Rimi was acting shy, something I found incredibly cute. Our eyes met. The two of us were blushing hard. Had girls' bodies always been this soft? Huh. Finally, even I got a real girlfriend. No one would ever call me an unpopular otaku freak ever again. I did promise that I'd protect you after all.
タクを守るって。
You'll protect me?
守ってくれる。
守る。
I will.
タ
I'll
クも
protect you, Takumi. And Nana-chan.
ナナちゃんも。
What was she trying to say? Ignoring my confusion, Rimi averted her gaze from me and looked up at the ceiling.
前は
Before, I had Takumi to save my heart.
救ってもらって
And now, I've had Taku rescue my heart.
助けてもらって
So this time, I'll be the one who protects you two.
私があなたたちを守る。
I still didn't understand what she meant by Taku and Takumi. But what I did know was that if she was there to protect me, I wouldn't need to worry about anything anymore. She was a gigolomaniac, and she would keep me safe. No matter what Shogun asked her to do, she'd be able to pull it off. As long as I was with her, that'd be enough for me.
私、
I'll try my absolute hardest.
頑張
I'll
る
try my hardest to atone for my sins, but also to return the favor I owe you both.
報いるから。
Atoning for her sins. Was she talking about what she had done to Senna and Kozue? But that had been legitimate self-defense. She hadn't had a choice. And that's how she should have thought about it. But what felt far more strange to me was how she said you both. Who else did she mean?
だから
So,
今は
I need you to sleep for now, Taku.
眠って。タク、
I could feel the vibrations coming from her body at her every word. Even now, her fingers were still stroking my hair. I felt so at peace, and so very sleepy. Reveling in the happiness of falling asleep in her arms, I closed my eyes. By the time Sakiyama Rimi left the container, the world around her changed beyond recognition. A city of death. That was the most fitting description. Countless buildings littering her surroundings had collapsed, and those that had avoided such a fate had deep cracks ripping through them.
さあ
The third melt. I never would have imagined it would be this bad.
手遅れだったよ。
We were too late. Nonosei Genichi moved Noah 2 to full-scale operation earlier than expected. Following that voice, a boy on a wheelchair appeared before her. This old building was not wheelchair accessible, yet despite the fact that it should have been impossible for someone in a wheelchair to ascend to the roof on their own, there he sat. But Rimi showed no signs of being surprised by his appearance.
元の
It
君
looks like you've returned to your former self.
元の
There's no
私
such thing as my former self.
いないよ。
It's more like I'm back to the person that
どっち
Taku
かっ
wished
て
for.
言うとタクが望んだ私に戻ったっていう感じ。タクが
And the fact that
そう望ん
Taku
で
did
くれ
wish
た
for me to
ことを
come
さ
back. Can't explain how happy it made me.
嬉しかったけどね。
彼は
He used his power without a D
理想
sword
と
again.
なしで力を使った もう
We
少し
push him just a little bit forward.
覚醒
He
的
can awaken.
タクの
It's okay. You can
そっ
leave
として
Taku
やって
alone.
くれて。
Cutting his words short, Rimi spoke with intense conviction.
ノア
I'll take care of Noah too.
私が何とかする。ナナちゃん
I'll save Nana-chan.
私が助ける。あなた
And I'm not gonna let you
知ら
die
せ
either.
ないよ。
君
You
一
can't
人
face
じゃ
Norose alone.
ノロセに対抗はできないそれに
And, as I've been saying for so long, you deserve a normal life.
普通に生きるべきなんだ
Well,
タクとね
here's the thing. I made a promise with Taku.
したんだ。
Looking up to the overcast clouds, Rimi gave a fleeting smile. I
私が
promised I would protect him.
タクのこと守るって。だから
So, I've gotta go.
行くね。ビシッ。
リミ
Rimi. Walking past the boy in the wheelchair, Rimi proceeded down the stairs. And the boy, deciding not to follow her, or rather, being unable to, sank deeply into his wheelchair and let out a great sigh.
自分を
You're planning to sacrifice
犠
yourself,
牲に
Rimi.
するつもりなのリミ
Noah, too, the bringer of calamity. Or perhaps, the creator of a utopia for humanity. Whichever it was, it meant nothing to Rimi. Whichever it was something Rimi had to destroy. Noah 2's location was already a known fact to her. A mutual recognition, silently yet tactfully planted into the people's consciousness. despite it being right in front of Shibuya Station, despite the building having been demolished years ago. It was there, with none suspecting a thing. No one even tried to go inside. Rimi opened up the door to the former planetarium, where no signs of human presence could be found, and stepped inside. Rimi's eyes went wide at the scene she saw before her. There stood a device that was beyond enormous. Enshrined in the center of a dome-shaped room, it could only be described as a monster. An ominous sound rang faintly throughout the spacious room. It was a low-pitched noise akin to the deep growl of a beast, a sound that signified the device's operation. Noah, too. Nishijo Nanami was being held captive right next to the device. Her uniform was torn, and a bandage soaked with blood was wrapped around her right wrist. Her head hung toward the floor, and she looked terribly, terribly pale. Faced with such a pitiable sight, Rimi was at a loss for words. Crucified in Jesus of Nazareth's likeness. No, what held her now could not be called a cross. It was far different, for what it shook the tape of was pure, unrated adult madness. The entirety of this world's evil, the entirety of this world disorder, the entirety of dyed color. It would be no exaggeration to refer it as a symbol sculpted to those very attributes. Keeping her guard up, Rimi swiftly checked her surroundings. There was no one else there besides Nanami. She found no traces of the man who had prompted the development of Noatu, the man who had performed ruthless, torturous experiments on her, Norase Genichi. Although surprised by that fact, Rimi prioritized Nanami's rescue and ran toward the tableau, crucifying her. Lowering Nanami from the tableau, Rimi sighed in relief after confirming she was still breathing. First and foremost, she had to get Nanami somewhere safe. To achieve this end, Rimi went to pick her up. However, an intense pain surged in her back. It was as if something was gouging out her very flesh. Rimi vomited blood that stained Nanami's uniform.
久々の再会だというのに、私には挨拶もなしですか?
Enduring the pain, Rimi turned her head. Norase Genichi was standing right behind her, and in his hand was the tableau that had been clasping Nanami only a moment ago. However, it was not a tableau, but a sword. Norase Genichi's D sword. You've got to be fucking joking. That very blade was now piercing through her body. Norase Genichi slowly drew his hand back. The sharp blade of his D-sword bored into her body, slid through her flesh, and scraped against the surface of her bones. Her body arched in involuntary spasms, spurred on by the sharp, agonizing pain as her body was slowly being sliced apart. This nigga. At last, Norase's sword released her. A torrent of blood came gushing free. Every nerve in her body was screaming out in agony. Even now, she felt as if she was about to pass out from the sheer pain. That girl is a precious decoy required to lure out Nishijo Takumi. Having her taken away on a whim would present quite the trouble. Rimi was well aware of the magnitude of Norase's powers as a gigalomaniac. She had been imprisoned by the man for over 3 years after all. In a fair fight, she would not stand a chance, and in this situation, he would never let her go. The mere idea of doing so would have been unfathomable to him. At the very least, I have to make sure Nana-chan escapes. The taste of blood spread through her mouth. She was continuously assailed by the fierce urge to vomit. The open wound on her back was hot, as if seared by flame. A sheer pain coursing through her left her unable to move. Blood was still rushing on without pause. It felt as if her consciousness was about to be severed. It was so terribly cold. Her eyes grew hazy, and amid her fading vision, she saw what resembled a scornful smile forming on Notice's face. This might be it for me. Rimi couldn't envision a delusion in which she managed to escape from this man's clutches. Only despair governed her heart.
僕の力をあげるよ。
It was a voice Rimi knew very well. Nishijo Takumi, or the boy presenting himself as Shogun. The voice came from a distinct place. If defined, it was in a manner akin to thought transference. In other words, telepathy, a feat made only possible by gigalomania.
僕の最後の妄想を君に。
匠。
君にこんな辛い役目を任せてしまってごめん。もう余計なことは言わない。君の意志を曲げることは無理だって分かったから。死ぬつもりなんだね。
If there was a way to fix things without dying, I would have done it.
彼が目覚めなかった以上僕にはどうすることもできない。だからせめて僕の最後の妄想を君に。
何言ってるの？あなたはそんなことしなくても。
Even though he had no presence in this place, Rimi shouted at the person she was speaking to.
君だけを死なせるわけにはいかないよ。すべての元凶は僕なんだから。だって。もういいんだ。リミ、ノロセを殺してほしい。ノア2を破壊してほしい。僕がサポートするから。
Rimi's teeth sank into her lip, and she wiped away her tears. Despite it growing more and more distant with every passing second, she did everything in her power to hold on to her consciousness. She reel-booted her G-sword. Countless fluttering feathers came falling down. Cradling Nanami with one hand, she held her sword in the other. The dripping sound landing at her feet conveyed the terrible amount of blood she lost. The bleeding had yet to stop, for her wound was one that would never allow it to. A single slash at Notice's D-sword, capable of bringing down all that stood against it. Rimi took the blow with her sword as she covered for Nanami, but their difference in weight proved fatal. Rimi could not take one of Notice's blows head-on with her small build. She was blown backward and slammed into the wall behind her. A crack tore through the wall of the planetarium's dome. I even went to the great trouble of letting you live, and this is how you repay me? Do you still desire more torment? Notice slowly walked toward Rimi. His face was one of pure, unending confidence. Every facet of his being stood high above, looking down on her with great derision. Rimi grinned, but her smile was a strained one. And then, for some reason only she could have known, she swung her sword toward the cracked wall behind her. The wall collapsed, exposing the scenery of the outside world. It was raining. Dense rain clouds coated the sky. Do you mean to run? I won't run away, but... Rimi sat Nanami down on the ground, releasing her from her hold. Still holding her sword tight, she wrapped her arms around Nanami from behind. Nana-chan has nothing to do with this. Rimi crafted a delusion, a single dazzling ray of light. By the time the light had subsided, the wing-shaped D-sword Rimi held was no longer there. In its place, snow-white feathers had grown from Nanami's back. Pure, untainted wings developed the blood-stained girl. It was a gruesome yet unendingly beautiful sight. Her form was like that of an angel. Nanami was unconscious, yet as if they had a will of their own, the wings that adorned her began to flap. Nanami parted from Rimi. Deeply bemused, Nodose watched as Nanami flew up through the giant hole that had been opened in the planetarium. Slowly and steadily, she glided through Shibuya as the rain incessantly poured. Now unarmed, Rimi watched as she flew.
無事でいて。
I see. Using your delusions, you turned your D-sword into a pair of wings. Do you no longer plan to run?
君は逃げないのですか？
Nodose had already had Rimi within range of his own D-sword. He could send her head flying with a simple swing. Nevertheless, Rimi stared right back at him, bereft of all fear.
まだ
I can't run
逃げられ
just yet. Because I have to kill you
殺
first.
さなきゃいけないから。
From her pocket, Rimi retrieved a cross with a dark sheen. To be precise, however, it was not just a cross, but rather a stake. The very same those had been used in the crucifixion case. In that very moment, Rimi had just real-booted one. Upon witnessing the display, Nodose could not help but raise a scornful laughter. Kill me? With that toy? That plaything? You greatly underestimate me.
舐められたものですね。
The blow was far too fast. Nodose's D-sword, far longer than he was tall, and at a speed thought unthinkable within mortal constraints, tore through Rimi's flank. Only when her body had already begun to stagger from the slash did she realize she had been cut. Rimi collapsed, screaming at the top of her lungs from sheer pain. Nodose's attack was not one meant to kill. He could have killed her whenever he wished at this point, but he intentionally refrained from doing so. Approaching the writhing girl, he trampled down on her arm. Repeatedly alternating between pained breaths and gritting her teeth, Rimi eventually stopped moving, for she had no other choice. The tip of Nodose's enormous sword was right up against her blood-drenched back, but she had yet to pierce her with it. Would you be so kind as to say that one more time? Stop. I will not stop. In light of her request, Nodose pushed his sword forward with great strength. Oh, she's gonna do the thing. The tip of his sword further gouged the flesh of her blood-stained body, clawing even deeper into her. It was as if she was pinning an insect for him to display. So, I believe you said you would kill me, or did I simply mishear you?
それとも
And yet, Rimi, still lying prone on the ground, reached for Nodose's leg with one hand and grabbed onto it. She clung to him as tightly as she could. The depths of her teary eyes harbored resolute flames of determination. They glared at him from below. I will kill you. I will kill you. And I'll save the world. Determination. Pulling his sword out from under her, Nodose kicked Rimi in the jaw with all of his strength. Her body tumbled across the floor like a rag doll. It seems that in the time we split apart, you've grown to be a rather displeasing human being. You have served your purpose. I let you live believing you were worth using later on, but I find myself no longer in need of you.
もういりません。
Rimi was on the verge of death. She tried pushing her body up from the floor and crawling toward Nodose, but without her D-sword and being unable to walk, she might as well have been already dead.
私に生意気な
Until the very moment your life slips away, I ask that you never let those impertinent remarks leave your mind. But before you reach that end, I propose, yes, how about I torture you every day for, let's say, 30 years? Inside a delusion, of course.
妄想の中でね。
Nodose's lips twisted, keeping the collapsed girl surrounded by fluttering feathers within his sight. He formed a delusion. His strength grasped on his D-sword, and he opened his channel into the direct sea. The particles and antiparticles needed to materialize his delusion had now been created. And from those two collections, only the particles, through the signals of light that were established as sight, were sent into Sakihama and Rimi's dead spots. That's exactly what I've been waiting for. What? Ew. 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 In a single instant, the fluttering feathers transformed into eyes. Until this very moment, the only eyes watching him had been Rimi's, but now, he was surrounded by an innumerable number of floating eyes.
その目、誰の目？
It was the last delusion Takumi had bestowed upon her. The particles Nodose had sent were impeded by the countless eyes, rendering them unable to reach Rimi's dead spots. And those eyes, connected to the direct sea, discharged many antiparticles. An indomitable defense which canceled out the power of Gigolomaniac. Only because he was Nishijo Takumi. Only because he was a Gigolomaniac powerful enough to create a human. Only because he had exhausted the final embers of his own life. Could such a monstrous delusion have been rebooted? Astonished by the eyes surrounding him, Norose gulped. No matter where he looked, there were only eyes watching him. Not only did their numbers refuse to dwindle, but they grew with no end. They buried Nodose's entire field of vision, and then they moved in toward him. Nodose was instinctively overwhelmed by an intense fear. Gritting his teeth, he swung his D-sword. The cut eyes gushed blood, closed their eyelids, and vanished. But right behind every eye, there was another. No matter how many he cut down, their numbers remained the same. If that's what you want, then don't open your eyes ever again.
目を開けなければいい。
Nodose suddenly felt a great pressure on his chest. At the very next moment, signals of pain pounded in his brain. As if they were a cloud of mist clearing away, the eyes that surrounded him all vanished without a trace. Before Nodose's eyes stood Rimi. In her hand was the cross-shaped stake, lodged deep in his chest. And thus, that was his end. After confirming Norose's death, Rimi fell to her knees, debilitated. She was bleeding terribly, her face pale as porcelain. She was barely even conscious now. Pained, a regular breath seeped from her mouth. Her eyes no longer saw anything. She could still faintly hear the ominous sounds of Noatsu, designating its status as fully operational. I guess I've got no choice but to entrust someone else with destroying it.
ごめんね。タク。
In a faint, almost inaudible voice, Rimi whispered into the air.
約束守れそうにないみたい。ナナちゃん助けたから。それで罪滅ぼしなんかにはならないけど助けたから。
Rimi sluggishly raised her face. There should have been a section of the planetarium's wall that had collapsed. A section through which the sky should have been peeking. But a few moments ago, it had been veiled completely by a collection of rain clouds. And because of that, she could only wonder. Her eyes no longer allowed her to confirm its color, but Sakihara Rimi showed a faint smile as she looked up to the sky.
あの空をあなたともう一度見たかったな。タク
When I opened the door to my base and stepped out, a clear blue sky jumped into view. I had the feeling that it had been raining, but it must have cleared up pretty fast. I hadn't been able to find Rimi anywhere. She had vanished without a single word to me. Once again, she had disappeared on me. I'd been waiting and waiting for hours on end, but she never came back. Instead, waiting outside my base was...
Shogun!
Moving very slowly, the wrinkly boy in the wheelchair looked directly at me. Terrified, my legs gave out on me and I fell to the ground.
君はこれから自由だよ。僕はあと1時間もしないうちに生き絶えるだろう。君に脅威を与える存在はリミが殺してくれた。
Hearing her name sent a wave of relief through me. Rimi had tried her hardest to protect me?
青井瀬名と折原梢の死体は僕が隠しておいた。七海は病院に収容された。だから君はもう自由だ。
I didn't understand. Wasn't he my enemy?
リミは
What about Rimi? Where did she go? Rimi won't be coming back.
戻ってこないよ。
What?
それじゃ
Shogun, skillfully maneuvering his wheelchair, turned his back to me. I blinked once, and within that time frame, one that hadn't even spanned a single second, Shogun had vanished without a trace. What the hell? What had just happened? Only a couple moments after that, I heard a low-pitched quaking noise in the distance. Looking over toward the center of Shibuya, I saw something, as if there had been a giant explosion. A single cloud of dense black smoke was making its way up to the sky. Something had happened. No, something was happening. An uprising? Something paranormal? Or maybe even a battle between Gigalomaniacs. Whatever it was, it scared the hell out of me. A mysterious appearance from Shogun had also scared the hell out of me. I didn't want to go anywhere near what was happening out there.
リミは
But Rimi could have been over there. She had disappeared once again, and yet surprisingly calm. It was strange for some reason. I didn't feel like I'd been betrayed this time. This time, I had the strong belief that Rimi was out there somewhere, struggling all alone, trying her absolute hardest for my sake. But Rimi, haven't you done enough? Haven't you faced enough hardships as it is? You shouldn't have to suffer any longer. There's no reason to. It's not right. I remembered the soft sensation of her lips. I was going to look for her. I'd had enough of not doing anything, staying in my room all day like a coward. Our future, for both Rimi and I, and the lives that we shared. There were so many incredible, amazing things waiting for us in the future. I chose to believe that. I knew in my heart it was the right thing to do.
朝一緒に学校行って学校では休み時間にどうでもいいこと話してお昼休みは一緒にご飯食べて夕方一緒に帰って帰るついでにたまにどこかのお店に寄ったりしてタクの部屋でちょっとだけおしゃべりしてそれでまた明日ねって手を振って別れてそんなのでいいなら私いくらでもしてあげるよそういうの結構憧れなんだ
Now I understood. I understood what she had meant by those words. How much she wished for a simple life. When I thought back on everything, I realized that the time I'd spent with her had only been a few hours in total, but I had loved every last second of it. I was always happy when I was with her. To me, who had gone through every day all alone as a shut-in, living as though I was dead, Rimi's smile had been my sole source of hope. It told me that a bright future existed ahead of me. Rimi had smiled for my sake, so now she should smile for her own sake. I believed she would come back. But this wasn't my usual escapism, hoping to avoid reality. No, this was my resolve. I would believe only in her, but she had promised me she would be with me forever. So, get moving. Move your ass, Nishijo Takumi. And so, in order to see her again, I headed toward the destroyed Shibuya. Wait for me, Rimi. I'll find you. I know I will. And this time, I'll stay by your side. Woo! I definitely like Sickness Unto Slaughter and Sun and Moon more, but this is like number 3. Come on, man. I mean, there's no way because I don't really give that much of a fuck about okay, I like Senna, but I don't really give that much of a fuck about ISA. And then Nanami, that's just incest. And well, I mean, that doesn't make it bad off the start, but what they do with it is what makes it bad. Is what makes it kind of boring. So my point being is that the incest could have been interesting, but it wasn't. It was just boring, which is why that one's like my least favorite. And then I don't really like I forgot Contract Sealed with Our Blood or Deus Ex Machina, because it's just kind of like okay. They just don't hold up in my mind. They don't hold up compared to Sun and Moon, this, and Sickness Unto Slaughter. Sickness Unto Slaughter isn't my favorite because it made me cry. Like I can separate that and say that on certain days I like Sun and Moon more, despite the fact that Sickness Unto Slaughter made me cry. You know, it's like a I don't tie my opinion of it to that sole thing, which is a thing you're supposed to do. But you know, sometimes it felt like that. Felt like I was doing that, but I know now. Oh, that's it. Well, hey. Not right now, because I like to do this with the I was planning on just playing Blue Sky right now and then having it done, but I like to play this shit with the AC off, and it's hot as fuck. So I need to turn the AC back on, meaning that I'm just gonna go do something else instead. Bye bye.